This guy thought money only came from big moves, but that belief kept him broke. Because in his mind, wealth was something dramatic, something loud, something that happened when you made it. Big salary, big risk, big breakthrough. That was the story this guy kept telling himself. And for a long time, it felt true. Every night, this guy would scroll through his phone, watching people live lives that felt like another universe. New cars, luxury apartments, travel stories that sounded like fiction. Everyone online looked like they had figured it out while he was still stuck in the same loop. Wake up, work, spend, repeat. At first, he didn't think much of it, but slowly, something started to shift. This guy didn't just feel broke anymore. He started feeling behind in life itself, like everyone else was moving forward on a hidden track, and he was walking in circles on the same road. And the worst part? He couldn't even point to a single big mistake. Because nothing in his life looked bad. That's what made it confusing. He wasn't failing dramatically. He was just not progressing at all. Until one afternoon changed everything. This guy was standing in line at a small cafe. Nothing special, just waiting, tired, distracted. But in front of him stood a man who didn't look impressive at all. No luxury clothes, no expensive watch, no attention, just calm. That was the strange part. He ordered without hesitation, paid without checking prices, moved like money wasn't something to fear, and that moment hit this guy harder than expected, because it wasn't confidence that stood out. It was absence of stress. For a second, this guy realized something uncomfortable. Maybe wealth wasn't about how much you show. Maybe it was about how little you worry. That thought stayed with him the entire day. That night, this guy kept replaying the scene in his head. Why did that ordinary man feel so different? What did he know that others didn't? And that's when he stumbled into something that completely changed how he looked at money. Not a hack, not a shortcut, a pattern, the 1% rule, but not the fake version people post online, not think rich or act rich. The real 1% rule is far more boring, and that's exactly why it works. At first, this guy hated it when he understood it, because it didn't sound powerful. It sounded too simple to matter. But here it is. The people who become financially stable aren't making one massive perfect decision. They're making slightly better decisions every single day without breaking the chain. That's it. No drama, no explosion, no overnight transformation. Just quiet consistency that compounds while nobody is watching. At first, this guy didn't believe it because it felt too small to change anything. But then he looked at his own life more closely, and that's when the frustration hit. This guy didn't lose money in one big failure. He lost it in invisible moments. A small purchase here, an unnecessary order there, a subscription he forgot about, a "I'll manage it later" mindset. Individually, nothing serious. But together, they were silently shaping his entire financial life. And that realization created a strange feeling in his chest. Not guilt, not anger, something worse. Awareness. Because suddenly, this guy understood something uncomfortable. He wasn't stuck because of one big problem. He was stuck because of hundreds of small habits he never questioned. Meanwhile, the people he called lucky or rich weren't doing anything extreme either. They weren't always earning more. They weren't always taking huge risks. They were just consistent in ways nobody notices. And consistency is invisible until it becomes undeniable. This guy started seeing it clearly. The man at the cafe wasn't rich because of one big decision. He was calm because he had probably made thousands of small financial decisions without emotional chaos. That's when this guy decided to test something. Not a full life change, just 1% improvement. For example, this guy used to avoid checking his expenses because it made him uncomfortable. Now he checked them for 2 minutes a day. No stress, no judgment, just awareness. At first, it felt useless, like nothing was changing, but that's exactly how the 1% rule works. You don't feel it immediately. You build it quietly. Then, this guy made another change. He stopped relying on motivation to save money. Instead, he automated a small percentage of his income. So small it didn't hurt. So small he barely noticed it. And that was the point, because discipline that hurts doesn't last. But discipline that feels invisible does. Weeks passed, then months. And something strange happened. This guy didn't suddenly become rich, but he stopped feeling lost. There was less stress when checking money, less panic at the end of the month, less regret after spending. And that emotional shift mattered more than numbers, because for the first time, this guy wasn't reacting to money. He was controlling his behavior around it. But here's where most people misunderstand the 1% rule. This guy almost did too. He thought small changes were enough on their own, but they're not. Direction matters, because 1% improvement in the wrong direction still leads to failure, just slower. So this guy added one simple rule to his life. Before any financial decision, he asked himself, is this taking me 1% closer to stability or 1% further away? Not emotional, not impulsive, just directional. And that one question started changing everything. He stopped buying things for temporary validation. He stopped spending to escape stress. He stopped treating money like something that disappears instantly. And slowly, something shifted in his identity. Because behavior doesn't just change outcomes, it changes the person making them. And once that happens, everything compounds differently. This guy noticed something deeper now. Life wasn't ruined by big failures. It was shaped by repeated small decisions. Skipping one workout doesn't matter. Skipping discipline for months does. Saving once doesn't matter. Saving consistently does. Learning once doesn't matter. Learning slightly every day changes everything. And that hit him hard, because it meant the truth was simple, but uncomfortable. He wasn't stuck because life was unfair. He was stuck because small choices were shaping his reality more than big dreams ever could. Months later, this guy wasn't living a flashy, rich life, but he had something better: stability, control, clarity, and peace when looking at his finances. Not because he became rich overnight, but because he stopped leaking money and discipline in small, unnoticed ways. And that's when he finally understood the truth behind the 1% rule. It's not about doing more. It's about doing slightly better, consistently enough that your future has no choice but to change. Because life doesn't respond to intentions. It responds to repetition. And if you repeat chaos, you get chaos. But if you repeat control, even in small amounts, you slowly build a different life. And this guy finally realized something that changed everything. You don't need a new life. You just need new habits, small enough to ignore, but strong enough to change everything.